Zoom meetings at churches. So tonight we're doing a Zoom meeting with you guys, and the subject tonight we're talking about Black men and their role in America. And I have 3 guests tonight that will be speaking. Brandon Price, he's a pastor at his church. Mr. Khalid Scott, he's a therapist, some of everything. We call him Black Superman, everything in the community. And we also have our last guest speaker is Mr. Lawrence. He's the owner of a couple of restaurants here in the Chicagoland area, Ruby restaurants, soul food restaurants. So I'm gonna go into more detail about it, and I'm gonna let each person tell more about who they are and let them share about themselves. So I'll start off with you first, Mr. Brandon Price. Tell us about what you do, who you are. We can't hear you, so I think you muted.
I'm here now. I'm here.
There you go.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. I'm Reverend Brandon Price. I'm an associate minister at Parkway Garden Christian Church, Disciples of Christ, over on 66 and King Drive. I am currently in seminary at McCormick Theological Seminary. And additionally, I do have a career in finance. I'm a pricing and market valuation consultant at Allstate Investments, LLC. But my passion, of course, lies with God's people. I am married happily to my wife, Priscilla Price, and I have 2 daughters. I just actually had a daughter a few weeks ago. She's about 3 weeks. So, yes, I'm a Black man in America. There might be odds they say about us, or they might have stereotypes about us, but I think everyone that's on this line, we're defying those odds. And so it makes me that much, let's say, hungrier to be excellent in my pursuit of life and my pursuit of everything that I touch. And so that's who I am. That's
how are you
doing. And so, yeah, nice to meet you all.
Thank you, bro, for sharing. I've known Brandon for the last almost 2 years. His church and spaces where we sometimes meet, when we meet as a group together as men, and we share past experience. We talk about life, talk about how we can help brothers grow into their purpose. So, person in the group, sometimes I meet with them individually, or sometimes I can call them and talk to them. They call and talk to us. We have a prayer line. We do a couple of different ways that we can help brothers out to the brothers and find out how we can help them in their purpose. Next, we're gonna let our brother Khalid talk, and he's gonna share more about himself and who he is. I know he has a long list of things that he does, so please share, bro.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Khalid Scott. Number 1 role in the world is I'm a dad. I'm Anaya's father. Second important role is a man of God, and then everything else falls in line. And professionally, I am licensed clinical social worker. I've been in this industry. This next August will be 27 years. And I've done everything from foster care to mental health to substance abuse, working with the elderly, working with the veterans. I do marriage and family therapy. I do individual therapy with DCFS wards. I'm a mentor, and kind of have an eclectic resume going on. But most importantly, I am a proud Black man who absolutely enjoys and loves his people, and I'm unapologetic to it. And this discussion tonight is very timely, and I'm looking forward to it. So thank you for having me, Joseph and Bianca. I appreciate it.
Wonderful, wonderful. We are happy to have you. We just celebrated his his daughter's graduation yesterday.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So I'm
It's
a
always,
mixed bag of nuts right now.
Congratulations, my brother.
Thank you, thank you.
men are really involved in their family, involved in their lives. And that's something that we want to hit on tonight when we discuss families and lives. The same thing with our brother, the last speaker on board tonight, Mr. Henderson, Lawrence Henderson, the owner of the fantastic Ruby Restaurant. I don't know if you all had a chance to go out there and taste this restaurant, but he'll tell you all about what he does and who he is. Him himself just has 2 daughters that just graduated. Wonderful time in his life as well. So I'll let you share, bro, about yourself and what's going on in your life.
Hey, well, thank you for having me. I'm kind of like the last brother who spoke. It looked like I could have just put everything. First of all, I have a dad. I have 3 kids. The heir to the throne, as I like to call him, Lawrence Russell Henderson Jr. 2 beautiful daughters that both actually just graduated this year. One Cole through high school, and then 14 that graduated out of school. And so very excited about that. Secondly, I'm also a pastor of a church on Chicago's west called Expand Church. Excuse me, Expand Church, 3858.
Wait a minute, one moment. One moment. The noise in the background is whenever someone else is moving, just mute your phone because it goes back out and he's not able to get his speech out. So go ahead, continue.
Okay, so like I said, where I serve as pastor, as servant leader and pastor at Experience Church. Professionally, I am in the restaurant business, where on Ruby Soul Food, we have currently 4 locations throughout Illinois. Of course, Country Club Hills, Illinois, 18348 south on Pulaski, in the Roseland area, 11028 south on Halsted. Downtown Chicago in the Thompson Center, 100 West on Randolph, and then currently we're opening up this week actually, back on Chicago's west side, 3944 West on Chicago Avenue. Also, certified life coach and trainer, John Maxwell University, graduated from that university in 2015. We got engulfed within leadership and understanding the structure. What really changes organizations and companies in our community. And also I'm a Black man that is very excited about speaking on this panel in this time. There's a part of me that is outraged, but then there's a part of me that also sees a light at the end of the tunnel. So I'm just excited about being on this call. Thank you guys for having me.
Perfect, sir. I really appreciate you. We're not gonna waste a lot of time. We're gonna go right into what we want to talk about tonight. Tonight we're here to discuss the role of Black men in our society in America. As a Black man that you all are, I chose you all for, you all are Black men, but you have something special about each one of you all. One, you all are parents. You all have daughters. You all have daughters in different ages of their life, and you all have so much to share and so much experience, knowledge, and wisdom to give each and every person that's watching and listening to this. So I want you to share about your experience as far as being a Black man in America. What has been your experience being growing up or being in a home with different things that are going on in society right now as you see it? So I'll first start with you, Brandon. How has it been your experience growing up as a Black man in America?
Okay, so as you all know, most of us come from that general usual story, poverty, crime, not much, not many positive role models, different things. I come from that environment, but I actually was raised in a home with my mom and my dad. But even amongst that, it was a very, very intense struggle growing up where we grew up. You know, the youngest of 5. I am the youngest. I got to see a lot. I've been through a lot, survived a lot, by God's grace. You know, did I ask for that lifestyle? Of course not, but it was what I was born into. And I'm sure a lot of folks that are on this call can relate. And so, you know, with everything that's been going on, it just reminds me of the constant struggle of being a Black man in this country. There's so many things to where it seems like society try their best to eliminate us. We can even start as basic as a TV commercial, to where if you watch a TV commercial on your TV, you rarely see a positive example of a Black male. And oftentimes, if he do, he's a goofy, he's an idiot, he's something that's not taken serious. And in relation, it kind of seems to relate to what's going on in society. A lot of the police brutality and different things. I think there's so many roots that comes to it. But, you know, my experience as being a Black man in America, it is in relation to what's going on with police brutality and everything. I'm looked at as less than. Oftentimes, and we've heard this before, we know this. It's like you got to prove yourself over and over again. It's sort of like you got a chip on your shoulder being a Black man here in America, because you know there's a target on your back. Being a Black man in America, you know that the room for error is very minimal. And if that area of minimality is like exceeded, then you are positionally a threat, or you are an issue, and somehow, some way you must be dealt with. In America, in my experience, I even take it from my career in finance, where it's a predominantly white male dominated industry. You know, I've been let go from a job before, just because I was a Black man. Just because of the fact that, you know, if I made a certain error, let's say with this trading exchange, a certain Caucasian person to make it, they'll get a slap on the wrist. But me, on the other hand, it's like a elevated level of something. And so, you know, that's been my experience in America. My experience has been definitely like a Negro experience. I've been treated fairly at times, but I would say this: my room for error is very, very low. And it's the same when you go to police brutality. If those guys step out of line in any way, if they give authority any reason, then they can use that from the extent to law to execute you and eliminate you, just because you stepped out of bounds, just because you challenged their culture, or you violated this Anglo-Saxon based culture, this white supremacist based culture that's been built for them and not for us, even though we built this country. And so my experience has been, I would say, fair. I must admit that at the end of the day, in this capitalistic society, you make yourself, and you know, it's all on you. But I gotta admit, as a Black man, that there are certain hurdles you have to overcome. I do admit that even in this capitalistic society, you go as far as you go, the white male would have it a lot easier than the Black male. He would just have certain breaks. He would just have certain advantages that we just have to overcome. And so as a result, I think it makes us better. It makes us stronger. It makes us to be that more sharper in our approach. And so my experience, I'm being very raw here, y'all. It has not been the best here in America, but at the same time, I've learned to maneuver America. I've learned to work around America, and I've learned how to kind of maneuver through things to where I'm able to, you know, still be a productive citizen in this society, but meanwhile understand that I have a minimal room of error in this society because I am a Black male, and because these individuals that are in authority, that are in power, they have a lot of judgments about me. They have a lot of stereotypes about me. They don't judge me based off of me. Sadly, they judge me based off of a pool. I'm judged off a majority. I'm not judged off of me, sadly. And this has been my experience in America.
Let other guys chime in on the same topic. Khalid? Sandler, what is your experience that you've shared in this? How have life run up in your environment and your family and your community? How can you touch base in this?
Wow, how do I wrap up 51 years of living on this earth? I'm from the hood. My story is from the hood to Holland, South Holland. And what a journey it's been. Grew up single parent home, only child. But what I had early on to be an advantage was the village. Okay, I had my grandparents, aunts and uncles, cousins. We all lived in the same community, and we all had friendships and neighbors, and we took care of each other. So I know when we talk about, man, back in the day, how your neighborhood and everybody was extended family, I saw it working. And I saw it positively working, even though we grew up in economic hardships. And what happened was, growing up in a village and growing up in the hood, what it did for me early on was I knew I deserved better. And luckily I had a mother who decided that she was going to make sure her son and her nieces and nephews also experience life outside of the hood. So we would go downtown to Broadway musicals and go out to dinner and dress up. So I knew it was life beyond the four corners that made my community. So right after high school, I knew I wanted to go to college. I went to the Army for 2 years. And the Army is where I was a victim of racism. And at 18, 19 years old, I was a designated driver. And I was in a car full of white young males, same age as me, and they got drunk every weekend. So I was always the nice guy to drive them to and from. Well, one night, one of the young men in the back seat said, "Nigga, hurry up and get us back to the barracks." And that young man, I couldn't even tell you what his name is today. He changed my whole trajectory of life, because he let me know how someone could take your goodness and use it against you based on your color. Then also I learned other life lessons, like it was mandatory that I had to have a life of excellence. And I had to have a life of excellence. Why? And this is going to sound funny, based on 2 TV shows I used to watch as a young person. Good Times and The Cosby Show. Good Times, I saw a family in the projects, but they survived. They did what they had to do. But then when I turned, think about 14, 15, this wonderful show came on television on NBC every Thursday night called The Cosby Show. And I went from wanting to be Michael to I wanted to be Theo Huxtable. And I was going to have the Theo Huxtable experience. And I made sure I did. I went to college, lived a wonderful bachelor life in my 20s, got married and had my child in my early 30s. In my career, I was called to become a social worker. God knew that I had the fortitude to help save lives. And I've been doing it for a long, almost 3 decades. And what it has taught me is that it's never enough, especially for us Black folks. It's never enough. I've seen the pain, misery, and the disdain in our lives every day I go to work, whether I'm with the veterans, whether I'm with kids, whether I'm with women or men. And every day I have a goal to make somebody's life a little bit better than it was. But when resources are limited and self-esteems are low, you're talking about a challenge. So I think it's really up to us to continue to put the work into building our communities by starting off building up our sense of worth and our sense of love and our sense of spiritual strength. With those three things, I think any of us can make it, you know, but we got to put the work into it. And I believe in the promise, and I believe in the platform of Black folks. And looking at society now, I'm glad my people are rising up and saying enough is enough. We will not be a victim anymore. Let's get busy.
On that
So
note,
that's my story.
Mr. Lawrence, tell us also your perspective on this, and what is the role of a Black man in America, and what has been your experience?
Well, my experience, almost like the same. I'm listening to these other brothers. It's like we don't know each other, but they're like we did cross paths in the spirit some kind of way. But I'm born and raised right on the west side of Chicago, right in the hood, right in K-Town. And of course, seeing difficulties of the Black community, the lack of resources, poverty. But I always had, I guess it's like that song said, I had a praying grandmother.
Yeah.
I had a grandmother that she was a special woman. And my grandmother showed me, my sisters and my cousins, that there was another way of life for the Black man, Black woman. My grandmother was a secretary back in the 80s, in the 90s for Commonwealth Edison, which was a pretty high position back in those days. Owned properties, on the west side of Chicago, owned properties, inside of Bellwood and different things of that nature. So at a young age, her business office was inside of her home. So I was able to see business at a young age. So as we run through the house, we have to always by the office to see payroll checks and see her budgeting books. And my grandmother would drop us off to school every day. And before we get out the car, she would say, "Lawrence, boy, what you gonna be when you grow up?" And at that time, all I want to be a child. I want to be a lawyer. She'd say, "Jessica, what you gonna be when you grow up?" And she said, "I'm gonna be a school teacher." And those kind of things stayed within my brain, within my mind, because she was letting us know then that you don't have to succumb to the environment that you're growing up in. So as I began to grow, I began to gain a different mentality as a Black man inside of America, seeing that it is a capitalistic system. But I began, one thing is that there must be a excellence inside of our lives and our communities. Although there's so many different things to us as Black men and Black women, I think that at the end of the day, we are too sometimes our own worst enemy. And I think there's coming a season of the time when we must begin to fall in love with developing ourselves and developing our culture and developing our communities, developing our mindsets, so that we won't allow other people to be able to put us in any positions that is not comfortable for our living experiences. And so pretty much I'm just dedicated now to developing people, training other business owners, training spiritually, and getting people to evolve into the best version of themselves. Because when we evolve into the best version of ourselves, that's when we begin to attract the type of lifestyles that we actually want for our lives.
It sounds like you're already stepping into our next question, so I'm gonna go ahead and present that to you. As far as how are you using your life, your platform to make an impact and a change in others' lives, in your family, in your community, different things like that?
Well, I believe that what I like to do is all about challenging and changing, because I believe that what does not challenge you will not change you. And so what I like to do as far as, very small details, even for my employees, I'm always challenging our employees at our locations. I'm always challenging those who work for me, those who are in the same community with me, those who are part even of our ministry. That I ask my employees, I tell my employees, Never see yourself as a waitress. Never see yourself as a line cook. Never see yourself as the dishwasher. But I try to get them to raise their mindset to understand that they have the same ability that I have, the owner of a business themselves. And so I challenge people as much as I can to develop themselves, to add value to themselves. Where added value to themselves, they add value to the marketplace. One of the things I like to do most is like always put before people a challenge for excellence. Whatever you're going to do, even the Bible says that whatever you do, do it in decent and in order. Whatever you put your hands to, do it with all your might. Whatever you're involved in, do it with your strength. Go the extra mile. Don't just be in love with average and mediocrity, but push past the norm. Go for extraordinary. Go for the top. Push yourself so that you can see better. And I think that's what we need to do more in our communities. And what I do with the young man that I see walking down the street, or the young man at the corner store, at the grocery store, or whatever, is try to challenge people to become the best that they could be. Not to be like anybody else. You don't have to be like the white man, Chinese man, or anyone, but just be the best that you can be. And I try to use my influence and the success that I have had in life to be able to show others that what God has done for me, he can do the same thing for you. The only thing that changes is that God blesses the work of your hands. If you're willing to put the work in, then the same blessing that's upon anybody else can be upon you. I always think about Derrick Rose, 2011, big sports fan too. So 2011, Derrick Rose, coming to the end of the regular season, they say, Derrick Rose, you are the leading vote getter for the MVP. You're stretching out in front of LeBron just a little bit. What do you think about that? And Derrick Rose said, why not me? Why not? Why can't I be the youngest MVP ever? And the same approach that I take toward business is that when I begin to open new locations, things of that nature, I said, why, if there's a McDonald's on every corner, if there's a Burger King and White Castle across the world, then they started with one. So why can't I do the same thing? And so just challenging ourselves to know that if we put the work in, we can accomplish great things too. And it does not matter the color of my skin. It's determined about the work ethic that I have, the belief in myself, the faith that I have, and the passion that I express.
You're muted, Josh.
What about now?
You.
Okay, so back to Lawrence. We spoke about your impact in the community. How does that also affect in your family and also politically? Since we're touching base on all three of those areas tonight. In what way are you making an impact in your family? And also, what part do you play politically?
Well, my family, it plays a huge part because I'm believing that, I'm breaking in my family. And to be working to be a first generational millionaire in our family, is that right now it's like all eyes are on me. All eyes are on me. And so the impact that I have to make is to make sure that as far as spiritually, as far as integrally, character-wise, that I do everything the right way, running the business, even from just not running the business, but how I live, even from down to filing taxes correctly and the smaller things, that how you talk, how you engage others, how you treat others. I think one of the things that has impacted my family the most, my initial family, is those who are even maybe long touch, is that they get to see that it's possible. And even though I have not reached the goals that I'm seeking for like I want to yet, but just the mere fact that when people see you pushing to your goals and see that you are not accepting the norm and that you keep, you fall down, but you get back up, and You know, was times when 2015 and 16 was the worst years of my life. In 2016, I lost my marriage, I lost my business, and I lost my ministry. Three things that were here, and I lost everything. And to climb back from the pitfall that I was in, and for people to see you down on the ground, and for, you know, to keep trusting God, and to keep fighting, and to keep building, and to keep trusting, and to keep with your faith confessions, even when it don't look like it. You know, that type of impact, I think, has served my family very well, and it's given them hope again. And it's given them hope again. As far as politically, I think the greatest thing that we can do is, I believe that this is a season of time where we need to raise up politicians and play such a role with people who have a love for the community again. I think a lot of times that what's taking place being a pastor in a community, I've sat in so many meetings. Just over the last 12 months, I've sat in so many meetings, and where we have, as Black people, we have put other Black politicians in office. We have made sure that they get in. We have made sure that they get the seats. They come to our churches. We tell our members to vote for them. We push, but then there's not a level of accountability once they get in these offices. And then it becomes the norm. And then what hurts me the most is that the Black politicians, when they get in, then they begin to look down on our communities. And so I think the role that I play now is trying to make sure that we put the right people in office so that our community can get the type of development that it needs, so that our country and our cities can go in the right direction.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate that. I'm going to pass this right on to Brandon, Mr. Price. Can you pick up right where he left off at, and how you're using your life and platform to make an impact in the community, make an impact in your family's life, make an impact politically?
Yeah, so, you know, I try to live my life every day to be an example, to someone, to, you know, let them know that, you know, regardless of where you come from, regardless of your skin color, you can be who you want to be, whoever you want to be. You can go how far you want to go. But one thing I do emphasize is that even with me, I'm not me without my Lord and Savior. And so, you know, it's very, very important that, you know, we'll do my best to try to, you know, let folks know that in regards to everything that's going on politically, to everything that's going on within our society, we should always try our best to keep God first. We should always try our best to ask ourselves, what would God do? What would God want? What is the Lord trying to tell us? And so, you know, with this and everything that's going on, man, I just try to make sure that folks understand that, you know, without God, we are nothing. And with God, we can be everything. And with God, all things are possible. And so, you know, in regards to me living my life, you know, everything I do, I go full throttle at it. I don't take shortcuts. And that's just, you know, who I am. That's because of where I come from. That's because, yes, I do have a chip on my shoulder as a Black man in this country. But at the end of the day, I do know that even with that little chip on my shoulder, I got an advocate. And that advocate is Jesus Christ, that, you know, died on the cross for my sins. And so, you know, regardless of, you know, whether we believe in Jesus or whomever, if we have a God and we have a foundation, I think that it's very, very important. And so in regards to living my life and doing things in the community, etc., one thing we need to do is we need to put God into the center. The next thing we need to do is we need to continue to love on one another. You know, sadly enough, I think our community, our world lacks love for the wrong things. We've fallen in love and made idol gods of a number of things that are not of God. And so as a result, God sometimes let people fall by the wayside because they didn't put God at the center. And so with this, I'm doing my best every day to be involved in the community in every aspect. And so when you ask Josh about, you know, joining this platform, I feel that it's my obligation to be able to, you know, speak on some things to where hopefully somebody, even if it's one person, that one person can be that change, to where it can be that one person or whomever we encourage to be able to go forth and want to create change as well. And so I think y'all, if we, have love, if we put God at the center, if we continue to build up one another and not tear each other down, that's a sad thing within our community as well. We tend to tear each other down a lot. Little small, simple things like Lawrence State, the small, simple things I think goes a long way. Another thing is we need to hold ourselves accountable. We put folks in office, but then again, like at times our community don't show up. We rarely showed up for Hillary Clinton. We rarely showed up within our own communities for aldermen and different things. And so, like we as a community, we have to do what we can to create this change. And so, like for instance, y'all, when it comes to this election, and me and Josh, we were talking about politics the other day. I always tell Josh, like within the church, sometimes a lot of churches don't want to get involved politically. They're like, it's a mess. We don't want to get involved. It's too much. But it was something that Josh told me that stuck with me. And he basically stated, like, in other words, that when it comes to politics, there wouldn't be. Josh, can you explain that comment for me really quickly?
Yeah, so I said, wherever the church is afraid to go, the enemy is going to show up.
Amen.
Anytime
I hope y'all got that.
It just feels like I can't get involved there. I can't get involved in politics. I can't get involved in schools. I can't get involved in this way. That's where the enemy sees, whoop, that's my doorway. I'm going to creep right in. I can set up shop. Because we're afraid to take a stand anywhere. That's where the
enemy creeps in.
And it takes over.
Exactly. And so with this is why it's important to keep God at the center, because if we don't, we've taken God out of the schools, we've taken God out of our homes, and that's a generational thing. And it's for me here, like for instance, with Khalid, when he talks about the community and stuff, a lot of that stuff, it happens, but it really don't happen with my generation. And I'm a millennial. And even below me, oh, it's a mess. I'm 30 years old, y'all, but below me, it is a mess. And it's getting messier. And so, like, with all these different things, like Josh stated, if you don't keep God in the midst, then the enemy will creep in and cause confusion, destruction, etc., etc. And so, I think y'all, when it comes to this thing politically, I'm gonna do my part, and I'm gonna make sure I include God in it as well. And so, like for instance, when it comes to the election, right? One thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a number of my cousins that are registered voters that don't usually vote. They the ones that's always at the kitchen table, or they always at the cookout, and they saying, I ain't voting for this or that, man. They don't care about us, man. That's part of the problem. That's part of the problem. And if you have that spreading amongst so many people, then as a result, you won't have no show-ups. And so what I'm doing is I'm going to take, and I'm going to irritate them, and I'm going to do whatever I can, y'all. I'm going to go play basketball with them, take them to have a beer or whatever, but I'm going to take them with me to vote, and I'm going to take at least 3 people. And if I do that, and if we do that, then that can be a part to where we can begin to create change, to where we get everybody involved. It ain't always got to just be about the articulate. It's about everybody being involved and everybody playing their part and being able to bring everybody together. And so, I'm
gonna chime in on what you just said there. If you don't exercise your voice as a vote, whatever way it goes, if you say, I'm not voting because I don't like either party, you just voted one way or another anyway. Because you vote or not, that's you stating that the other side can win. Because they're not, one side is going to need your vote. If you choose not to participate, that's actually saying, I don't care. So whatever happens, you can't say, I don't like what's happening. You didn't participate. You have to participate to say, I did my part. I tried.
Right. So, and one last thing as well, Lawrence, I love the fact, brother, that you're doing what you can to, create entrepreneurs. Oh, my brother, it is so vital. It is so vital to where we can be able to have our own independence. and not having somebody to be able to control us. And, me, being in corporate America right now, I'm at that point. But unfortunately, y'all, I'm a first generation graduate. And I got to kind of build things up in order to do other things, if y'all know what I mean. Sometimes you got to crawl before you can walk. And so with that, I love the fact that you're doing that. And so, like, for instance, we all play a part. Khalid, you play a beautiful role. Everybody in here play a beautiful role. In regards to me being in ministry, the least I can do, y'all, is try to give some folks the word of God. The least I can do is try to give some morality, give them some encouragement. So when they come forth to you, Lawrence, then they can have certain things to be able to have that push, to have that perseverance, to have what they need. And so we all just got to play our roles, guys. We all got to play our roles and play them collectively. And that's how we'll get things done. And so slowly but surely things are changing. But, of course, we still got more work to do. But the work won't get done, y'all, if we don't include the Lord.
Amen.
Lastly, I'm going to let my brother Khalid get a piece of this. I know you have something to say on this topic. How are you using your platform, your life, to make an impact in your family, politically, in your community?
Okay. Well, first of all, let me say this. You are a very mature millennial for 30 years old. And then number two, Joshua, happy birthday. And then for Lawrence, you know what? It is so wonderful to be at the table with a Black businessman who is motivated to build his community. So for me, I just did what I do to help my community. We have to uplift each other.
Amen.
I have to tell every Black man that I know how fantastic he is.
Come on now.
How vital he is. How important he is. And how loved he is. Guys, I don't know if you have ever gotten a compliment from another brother, but it's something a little bit more powerful when another brother gives you a compliment.
Amen.
Because then you feel like, wow, I must have really did something, you know? And imagine how that feels and how it should be contagious. Because we tear each other down, as you said before. But now we got to be in the business of uplifting. And with that, I've been a mentor for 26 years. 26 years. And altogether, I've mentored about 30 young men. I started off with children, school age, high schoolers, and now I'm mentoring young adult millennials and Generation Xers, because I found that even though they are 20-something years old, 30-something years old, when I sit down and talk to them, sometimes I think I'm talking to a 18-year-old. And they cannot afford to have a young mentality, not in this day and age. So for me, how I build my community and the selfish part of me, I have a beautiful Black daughter. I want my daughter to have a choice when she's ready to court and get engaged and get married. So if I don't like the young men out here today, what am I going to do about it? And for me, mentoring was just a natural answer to what I think ailed our community. So what happens is I take males, and a lot of my male mentees are stereotypical when I first get with them. Boys in the hood, you know, or athletic. And majority of my mentees are former athletes, high school and college. And what I found was that they were broken. They're broken. And I used to think, like I'm sure everybody else, that sports somehow fills in the gaps. Not at all. Not at all. What happens is that coach has an agenda. And the agenda is to take your Black body and win games. But then my mentees came and worked for me and could not write a court report without 500 red marks on the document. And I said, who is fixing their mind?
Mm-hmm.
From the neck down, they're 6-pack, you know, hamstrings, you know, chiseled all up. But where's this muscle being worked out at? So I had to, like when you exercise, you have to tear the muscle in order to rebuild. Okay, used to be a trainer back in my 20s, even though I don't look like it. But I understood that concept of tearing down in order to build up. So that's my thing now, building up young Black men, letting Black men know to have pride in who they are and have pride in their people. You know, I remember having a dinner with many of my mentees, and the majority of them said something that was really controversial to me. They said, Coach, though I'm dating a Black girl right now, if I break up with her, I'm going after Becky. And I said, why? And they said, because I just don't want to deal with Black women no more. And I said, no, we won't have this. Because if you don't even believe in your own race of women, and then they stop believing in you, then our culture, our race, our heritage is over with. So that let me know I had to reinforce Black pride, something that's I thought was a given, but it's not. Because our young people think that the other folks are the right folks, not us. They're not impressed with their own race. And if you don't have any pride, dignity, honor, and love for your own, you will become a victim every time. So for me, to answer your question, and I know that was a long way, Joshua, I have to build up the young men in the community. And from that point on, when the men are straight, everything falls in order, and can't no one tell me anything else.
Come on, bro.
With God.
How many times, Josh, have we had that conversation?
Yeah.
This is the whole point of this ministry right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got in these last 10 minutes, we're gonna do a closing, but I want to do something a little bit different to change it up. We're gonna call this the cross table conversation. I would like the two brothers, Lawrence, if you can give some wisdom to Brandon. He's a young man, young marriage, growing up, 2 young girls. I would like you to share some of your wisdom that you've had as a Black man to another young Black man. And then the same for Khalid, if you can share some of your wisdom as a Black man with a daughter that's going into college. Not to mention, he'll tell you more about his experience and how he had to shape and mold and make the way for his daughter to go into her next role in life.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I'll let you start, Lawrence, and giving Brandon some of your wisdom, some of your experience in that.
The first thing that I could tell him is what he already knows, but just to confirm what he already knows is that if you keep God first, and everything, that God has a way of sustaining us, you know, throughout our lives. And raising daughters, I will tell you something, it's a joy. It's a joy to me, having an 18-year-old and having a 14-year-old. What a joy. They just celebrating the graduations that they have. Now, the thing about raising daughters is that as they begin to get older, your love, that's why it's so great to have the love of God within your heart. Because, you know, most people make mistakes by telling their children what, I'm glad my oldest daughter, while we've been on this Zoom, they actually left. So I'm glad that she can't hear me saying what I'm saying. She actually won't. But one of the things that I learned, and maybe this can help you too, is that you can't tell them what they cannot do. You can't tell them what they cannot do, because there's a scripture, Romans chapter number 7 that says that the law arouses the flesh. So, you know, once you put a law out, once you tell somebody what they cannot do, is something about our flesh that just won't do it. I knew when my daughter, my 18-year-old daughter, when she was 12 years old, I could see some things in her that I did not like. I could see some things in her. Knew I had to understand my function as a father. If you don't understand the function of a thing, you can never get the benefit out of that relationship. And so I had to understand my function as a father. My function was not to be her friend. My function was not to always make her feel good about everything that I had to say to her. But my function was to be her protector. My function was to be her provider. My function was to be her protector. My function was to be her security. And I understood that in order to make sure she got to see this blossoming, beautiful 18-year-old daughter that has graduated, going to college, no children, I knew that I had to love her with all of my heart, but I knew at the same time she needed to have a strong father. Now, many of her friends and things of that nature said, hey, your dad is a little rough, whatever, but I understood what it was going to take as a father to get her through. Do you know what teenagers, what they face in schools today? I'm talking about the level of sexuality, lesbianism. Now, I'm just telling you, raising daughters, lesbian, that's just the norm now. I mean, you know, that is like, you see that's just like what they do at high school now, the two-girl thing. And so I knew in order to get her through those things and be able to get her safe, the key is to get them safe. I knew that I was going to have to sacrifice a whole lot of my time. I knew I was going to have to sacrifice a whole lot of things in order to make sure that I was the type of example of a man. My daughters, like I said, my daughters have never seen me with only one. And they have only seen me with the wife that I was married to for 16 years. That's the only woman. They ain't seen me bringing even, and that's been since 2016. I've been divorced. They ain't seen I come right to my home, and they see me in the bed by myself every night. But that's the sacrifice that I had to make in order to show them that there are morals and standards that the Word of God teaches on that still lays true in our and should be true in our community. So I would basically just say, you know, just raising daughters, don't get caught up. It's gonna be a season in where, you know, you want to be a little lenient because they look at you and they smile and you get, you know, you get that feeling, but you got to be a father. You being a father.
How you know that, Lawrence?
I already know, but you being a father, know the role of a father, and you being a father, even God, who is the greatest father of all, he chastises us, he corrects us. And like I said when I began, what does not challenge you will not change you. And so I knew my kids are going to be the best. I had to challenge them to I see bad attitudes, I check it. I see frowns and stuff, I check it. What's the problem? What's going on? What's going on with you?
That's right then and there.
Yeah, you know, because that's what our goal is. Because, like, once again, the same thing that you guys talked about, how the enemy would get into politics. If you don't get involved in your kids, the enemy will get involved in your kids.
Oh, that's anywhere. Anywhere you afraid to go, the enemy sucks right in there. So if you get out your kids,
it's right there. So I don't
open secret.
Yeah, I don't let them
preach, brother, preach. Come on now.
I don't let them go off into rooms with attitudes. And no, even if they're mad at each other, hey, come on out here, everybody, let's talk about this together. Yeah. What's going on? Why you don't like this? Why don't you feel this way about your brother? Well, no, we're going to love each other. That's how I was raised. And I think that get back to that again, but I would just say that love them. Love covers a multitude of faults. Love them, but also be a father. Be a
Yes.
father.
Thank you. And on top of that, Khalid and Lawrence, me and my wife are taking heed. We're listening.
Good. Very good. Very good.
You up, Kelly? Share your wisdom about being a father, a black father with having a daughter.
Okay.
And not having a son.
Here's my baby right here. Okay. As you see, when I opened up my introduction, I said my #1 role was Anaya's dad.
That's right.
I work for DCFS. So you can imagine what I see when I go to work 5 days a week. I see horror shows and horror movies. I had to take many years ago a 9-year-old girl to a hospital so she could have a rape kit done. So on August 21st, 2002, when God said, I'm gonna give you the greatest gift on earth, I took him real serious. See, when God talks to me, because he real busy, and when he may take some moment to talk to you, it behooves you to shut up and listen up.
Amen.
So on 8/21/2020 at 12:36 in the morning, when he let me have this wonderful gift named Anaya Khalid Scott, I took him serious. And I used to be in a fraternity. Well, I'm still in a fraternity, but I used to be active, Alpha Phi Alpha. I used to be in the Urban League, 100 Black Men, NAACP. I was Mr. Black Chicago. But when I became Anaya's dad, all that went away because I understood the task at hand. I brought into a world a beautiful Black woman. And I had to make sure that my daughter was going to be equipped because the world not only attacks Black men,
That's right.
It attacks Black women.
Come on, man.
It attacks Black women every day and tell them they less than, they're not worthy. Then you have Black women who don't have Black daddies at home.
That's right.
Or they have Black daddies who, Lawrence, you touched upon this, put every woman in front of her.
That's right.
So then you got a Black daughter who grows up saying, man, I want the attention that daddy should have gave me, okay? I want to feel love that daddy should have gave me. So I go out there looking for void fillers. Yeah. And we know what happens when you look for void fillers. You miss the mark every time. So for me, Anaya Scott had to be the priority. Friday was the 8th anniversary of my divorce. You know, the 8th anniversary of my divorce. I became a better parent once I got divorced. Because why? I knew I had to do it by myself. Yes. I was not going to have the luxury of a wife next to me to help cook and do her. My daughter's hair is down the middle of her back. I had to learn how to flat iron. Yeah. I had to learn how to make spaghetti. Yeah. One day I got a phone call saying, your daughter is a woman. So I had to leave work and run, pick her up and take her to Target. And I'm a man, but I had to do it.
In there.
And I did it. Yes. Now, 2 days ago, on the anniversary of my divorce, my daughter walked across the stage, ranked number 8 out of 404 students. She has a full ride to the number 2 school in America. So can no one tell me what a Black man can do when he's committed? Yes. No one. I am the proof that Black men can raise kids. When I got divorced, listen to this, brother. They offered me every other weekend, because that's what they offer men when you get a divorce. You got your kid every other weekend, which only gives you 4 days a month. That's right. I said, absolutely not. I am Anaya's daddy 24 hours a day. You're going to give me 50-50.
That's right.
So I got 2 weeks, my ex-wife gets 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because my daughter was not going to go out in this mean-spirited world unequipped.
Yeah.
And I've been schooling her from a male's perspective. The other day, my daughter got mad. She said, Daddy, why are you always telling me that I have to know how to cook? I said, because I need you to have a husband. And
That's
men
right.
like to eat.
Come on.
And people, and if I see, I posted it on Facebook and women were going off. How dare you? How dare I what? As a black daddy telling his daughter that one day you may become a wife and your husband may want to eat dinner at night?
Right.
Wow.
Important.
Wow. So keep it moving. Keep it moving. I know what I got to do over on 169th in South Holland. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so my daughter is ready.
Praise
And you have to work it every day. You are a parent 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get no breaks.
Right.
Once they come out the womb, there's no breaks.
Right.
And it shouldn't be. And I urge black mothers, stop letting men off the hook.
That's right.
Bianca, make Joshua do just as much as you do every day.
My wife right here listening too, man.
I know my sister listening. Make him do just as much as you do every day.
Mm-hmm.
Because then it teaches us to value life.
Yes.
It teaches us to value life. And it shows our kids the commitment of men, especially daughters. So that's the best advice, and I pray every day for my kid and for me to raise her right.
Amen.
So that's my advice to you, young blood.
Thank you so much. Thank you, brother.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
I feel that that was, if we call ourselves men, growing men, and we have an opportunity to help a man grow in our presence, we should always use these platforms for that purpose, to help each other grow. I don't think there's anyone on earth that can't learn from someone or can't teach someone. So we all have a place where we can grow and we can always learn and we can always teach.
That's
I
right.
thank you all for coming on tonight. We have expired our time, but would like to welcome you back again. Next month, we're going to do another topic around this same subject about black men. And the next topic we're going to talk about is debunking the myths about black men, the stereotypes that's been put on black men. So come back in next week, next month, and we'll talk about our next thing. We do have other things on this channel. We do grown men, married men. That's gonna be in about 2 weeks when we have couples come on and we talk about their lives. We just had an episode with Brian Price with that same thing. Him and his wife did that interview. So
it's Brandon, Josh, get it right.
Brandon, yes, Mr. Brandon Price. And I really appreciate you all coming on tonight. We had a great time. It was fun and relaxing.
Absolutely.
You all sharing your life and experience with others. So tune in next time when we'll do it again. Thanks again and God bless.
Thank you, everyone. Be safe.
God bless. Pleasure, Khalid, Lawrence.
Take care.
Dr. Lewis Hilton. Colleen.